We got second and goal. You know, I hate talking about him because I feel like every time it's something not good, and it's such a shame because they're having a good season. We got the Cowboys. They won against the Patriots. It was a lot closer than I think a lot of people expected. Mac Jones played decent. I'll give him credit. Mac Jones played decent. But the key to the Cowboys keeping the Patriots in that game was Mike McCarthy just made bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. It was the most poorly coached game I've ever seen in my life. And when you watch that Cowboys team, they don't look well coached. 11 penalties. 11 penalties. I mean, as we're speaking, they probably got one more. That's how the Cowboys have the talent, but is Mike McCarthy going to hold them back? Connor, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think he does. I mean, listening to a lot of people talk, it's Mike McCarthy, I think, went into such a funk after getting kicked out of Green Bay because of the situation with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he was very adamant that Aaron Rodgers could not stand Mike McCarthy for a long time in Green Bay. And Mike McCarthy just never changed, right? There was never any updating of the Packers offense. There was never any changes there. And yeah, they won, but I think most of that was because of Aaron Rodgers. I mean, it's hard to lose when you have a guy, but never after he changed. And then he goes to Dallas, and Jerry Jones is kind of notorious for keeping things around too long, especially at coaching. Like, right, we have Mr. Claps there for way longer than he should have been. And I mean, I know we both agree on that one, but he didn't change either, right? The Cowboys probably have the most high-powered offense in the NFL right now, easily. Between receiving core, Pollard, Zeke, that offensive line looks solid now. There's no reason they shouldn't be scoring 40 points a game on anybody, no matter how good the defense is. That offense has the power to rival what the Chiefs were doing, if not do it better, because they have threats that can do everything. Mike McCarthy is just so Stone Age in his ideas on offensive coaching that it holds them back. And he doesn't help at all in the defense. I mean, let's be honest here. If you're a Cowboys fan at this point, I don't know how you feel about this. I want Kellen Moore as my head coach. Yeah, maybe he doesn't know a ton about defense, but he can get that offense whirring enough that it would just go. And I think a lot more people respect Moore down there in Dallas than respect Mike McCarthy, because he just doesn't do anything. Mike McCarthy isn't the kind of guy who's going to step up and be like, okay, guys, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. And this is how we're going to get a win. He's just not that guy. And he wasn't that guy in Green Bay either. Yeah, he gets a Super Bowl, but that was on the shoulders of prime Aaron Rodgers, where he could literally do anything and it'd probably end up in a positive play or a touchdown. I think Mike McCarthy is just, like I said, so Stone Age that he's not adapting. He's not doing what older guys in the league, like, you know, Bill Belichick has kind of fallen off in his adaptation kind of stuff, but Andy Reid, these guys who are older and adapting, Mike McCarthy isn't even close to as old as those guys, and he just isn't adapting at all. And I think that's what's holding the Cowboys back the most is just complete incompetence at trying to do anything new.
Yeah, so this topic was inspired by recently on Colin Cowherd's, not his normal podcast, but his Volume Sports podcast. He had Nick Wright on. Nick Wright brought on that idea that the Cowboys should fire Mike McCarthy mid-season and promote Kellen Moore as soon as possible. Hasn't really been seen done before, right? In the NFL, I can't think of a time where a team was 5-1 and they fire their coach because they don't think he's good enough. I don't think that's ever happened. But it's true. I think there's a legitimate case to be made for it. I don't know what Mike McCarthy brings to the table that Kellen Moore doesn't, because Kellen Moore calls the plays. So the offense runs through him. Mike McCarthy is not a defensive coach. That's Dan Quinn. So there's his job. The Cowboys have one of the best special teams coordinators in the league, so he's controlling that. So I wonder what Mike McCarthy does besides call the timeouts and throw the challenges and make the decisions on whether or not to go for it. And 2 out of those 3 things he's really, really bad at. Mike McCarthy is the worst clock management coach in the league, and that includes Andy Reid. And Andy Reid is pretty bad. Andy Reid's pretty terrible. Mike McCarthy is the worst clock management coach. He calls timeouts when he shouldn't. He doesn't call timeouts when he should. He grants timeouts to the other team like he did this past weekend. I mean, it's unreal. It's every week with him. And it's not something that happens like, oh, it happened one time, so we're going to let it slide. No, it's happened at least 4 times, 4 or 5, maybe 6 times this season where he's completely botched the clock situation. We're in week 7. His late game decisions on whether to go for it, there was right before the Trayvon Diggs interception, I believe, is when it was. They had a chance. It was 4th and 1, and it was either line up for a 52-yard field goal or something like that, or go for it. And this guy kicked the 52-yard field goal in the 4th quarter instead of going for it on 4th and 1 when you have a running back that's having a resurgent year. You have a quarterback that's always going to make the right play. You have 3 receivers really, because Cedric Wilson is a legit guy. He's a legit receiver. 3 receivers that can get open. Oh, and by the way, Zeke doesn't fit your taste. It's all right. You got Tony Pollard, who's quicker than everybody else on the defense. So he can bounce it to the outside and get there too. You have a quarterback that he did score on a sneak earlier in the game and they didn't call it, but he's clearly able to get that yard if you need it. And this guy decides to kick the field goal, and they missed. And Greg Zuerlein, it would be different if you had Justin Tucker at kicker, and you're like, this guy's money, it's guaranteed points, just kick it, it's going in. Greg Zuerlein has not been exactly money. He's a good kicker, don't get me wrong, but he's no guaranteed 3. He's no guaranteed 3. He consistently makes the wrong decisions all the time. All the time. And so I really don't know what he benefits to this team. To put in perspective, this past Sunday against the Patriots, the Cowboys outgained the Patriots in total yards by 230 yards. They were 2 of 4 on 4th down. Patriots didn't go for it. I'm pretty sure they dominated time of possession by 13 minutes, and I believe they had more plays in the Patriots' red zone than the Patriots had plays at one point. And at the end of the first half, they were down 14-10. Like, how does that happen? 11 penalties is how it happens. Consistently making the wrong decision is how it happens. Did the Cowboys get a bad break on the Dak quarterback sneak? Yeah, they did. But that stuff happens. It happens. And you had more opportunities to put the game away early. By the end of the first quarter, the Cowboys should have been up 21-14. And the Patriots offense was playing well. Mac Jones was playing well. And they should have been up 21-14. The Cowboys consistently shot themselves in the foot this whole game and still eked out a win. You know why? Because they're talented. The Cowboys have undeniable talent. That offense is potent. Trayvon Diggs just got his 8th interception in 7 games, I believe is what it was, right? Like he's had an interception every game. He had 2 that other game. So he now has 8 interceptions in 7 games. You know, the defense starts making plays because that defense, they have their moments where they're not great. We saw it on the touchdown pass to Kendrick Bourne, which Devonta KZ, what are you doing on that? They'll have their lapses, but they're a talented group. They'll figure it out. They can be a bend but don't break defense. I just don't know what Mike McCarthy brings to the table. I really don't. Kellen Moore, it's so tough to say that they should fire him because you don't know how Kellen Moore is going to act as a head coach, because head coach is different from offensive coordinator. You've got more responsibilities within the team. You have to have your eye on everything. But with the job that Mike McCarthy, and normally in any other situation, I'd be like, no, it's a little ridiculous. You know, you don't know how the guy's going to fare at head coach. But the truth is, Kellen Moore can't be any worse than Mike McCarthy has been. As far as like decision making goes, This guy's the worst. I mean, what was it a couple weeks ago where they put the team to 4th down with like a minute and a half remaining in the second half, or in the first half, and they didn't call a timeout to try and score one more time. They let the clock run down like 30 seconds, took a knee, and went to half. Like, what is this guy doing? What is he doing? You know what? Every time that we talk about the Cowboys, and this is on me because, you know, I make the topics for the show, so apparently I like to hurt myself. But every time we talk about the Cowboys on the show, I feel like it's in a negative light. They're 5-1 right now. They're 5-1. I should be happy. But we just played a game against a Patriots team that fought their asses off, but they're not nearly as talented. I mean, that should have been a blowout, you know? But it just shows the coaching gap. Belichick is an awesome coach. He is an exceptional coach. He'll never lose his job. The Patriots could go 0-16 for 2 seasons straight, and I think he'd still keep his job. That coaching gap between Mike McCarthy and Belichick. Belichick's here. Mike McCarthy's like that. He's not even on the screen. All right. He's so far down. There's a reason this guy was fired from the Packers, and the only reason that he got a job at the Cowboys is because he said he had adapted and changed. And guess what? He hasn't adapted or changed. He's changed nothing. It's so hot and cold with him. Do you think they have a legitimate shot at the Super Bowl with him at head coach?
I think they do, just because how talented they are. I think Mike McCarthy does put them in situations that they shouldn't be in, like being that close to the Patriots. I mean, huge Patriots fan. That game should have been a blowout, like you said. Should not have been close. Yeah, that Pats defense is pretty good, but not good enough to hold the Cowboys and make them have to win in overtime. That's just not that shouldn't have happened. I think they can do it with Mike McCarthy at head coach because they're talented enough to do it. But I think he's going to put them in game situations that they shouldn't be in that could cost them crucial wins. And I think that's the biggest issue. They have the talent to do it. Mike McCarthy's coaching decisions could jeopardize it.
Yeah, I share the same opinion. I think that's going to come back to hurt him in a big way later on. His coaching decisions. Right now, they haven't hurt us because kind of played inferior opponents. Haven't really been outside of the Bucks and the Chargers. They're actually a really good team. But we've played relatively inferior opponents, the Eagles, the Patriots, the Panthers. So those decisions haven't come back to bite us. When you're playing in the NFC Championship game against Tom Brady and the Bucks, guess what? You can't make those mistakes because Tom Brady is not going to make mistakes. Bruce Arians, he's a veteran head coach. I know that people are hot and cold on Bruce Arians, but he's not making those mistakes. You know, he might screw up time management a little bit, but...
Yeah, but plus you have Tom Brady on the field, and if Tom Brady isn't like what Bruce Arians is doing, he's just going to make those decisions by himself anyway. So you kind of negate Bruce Arians in those situations.
So Aaron Rodgers isn't making those mistakes. Aaron Rodgers is one of the most intelligent players in the league. No chance is he making a mistake like that. You know, these are teams that you're going to have to face. If you make it to the Super Bowl, oh my God, would the heavens rain down for me? But if you're against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens in the Super Bowl, John Harbaugh is not making that mistake. Lamar Jackson's not making those mistakes. You know, if you're against the Chargers, what's his name? Brandon Staley's a smart guy. He's not making those mistakes. These are good teams. Don't make that level of mistakes. And right now, the Cowboys are so mistake prone. Not even from their players, from their coach. That's not good. That's not good.